Ever get that feeling? The month ends, you look at your bank account, and you're just scratching your head, wondering where all your hard-earned cash actually went.
Mm-hmm.
You're bringing in a decent paycheck, right? Life should feel, I don't know, manageable, but somehow it feels like you're constantly playing catch-up.
Oh, yeah, that's a really common feeling.
Well, if that sounds familiar, let's dive in. Today, we're tackling something pretty fundamental, budgeting.
Exactly. And we've got some really useful material to work with here. Think of it as a straightforward guide to getting your family finances a bit more organized.
Okay.
Our goal really is to pull out the key steps, the essential language you need to start feeling, truly in control of your personal spending.
And our roadmap for this, it comes from this really insightful piece. It includes a conversation between a family who's grappling with exactly this issue and a financial advisor. Plus, it gives us clear explanations of all the key terms that kick around.
Sounds good.
Okay, so let's jump right in. Let's talk about the Carwell family. They come to this advisor with a very clear pain point.
Yeah, and what's really interesting about the Carwells, about their situation, is they actually have what's described as a relatively high household income.
Right. Not struggling on the income side necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
And yet their spending has skyrocketed, that's the word they use, and it feels out of control.
Wow.
And this immediately flags something super important. Budgeting isn't just for people who feel like they aren't earning enough. Even with a healthy income, if you don't have a clear plan, your finances can quickly go off the rails.
Right. It's not always about the amount coming in. Sometimes it's just not having a clear picture of where it's all flowing out.
Precisely.
So the advisor, they get straight to the core idea, right? The concept of budgeting itself.
Mm-hmm. And if we boil it down, budgeting is really about being deliberate with your money. It's about deciding how you want to spend your money. That's key. And then, crucially, putting in place a plan to make that happen.
So it's two things almost. The plan itself.
Yeah, the noun, your budget, and then there's the action part.
The verb, to budget, following the plan.
Exactly. Creating it and following it.
Okay, so the Carwells are ready. They need this plan. What's the very first piece of advice the advisor gives them? Where do they start?
Right, and this brings up a really fundamental point. The advisor stresses how important it is to determine your cash flow.
Cash flow, okay.
Simply put, you need to know exactly how much money is coming into your household.
Yeah.
And in a family context, like the Carwells, they specifically use the term household income.
And household income, just so we're crystal clear, that's not just like one person's salary, is it? It's bigger than that.
No, exactly. It's the combined income of everyone contributing financially within the household.
Oh.
So if you've got two people earning an income, you add their incomes together. That total is your household income. And knowing this number, it's like the absolute bedrock of any budget because it sets the ceiling. It tells you what you actually have to work with.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so step one, figure out the total coming in. They've got a handle on that. What's the next step for the Carwells? What do they do now?
Okay, so the advisor then shifts the focus to the other side of the equation, where the money is going, their expenditures.
Right, the outflow.
Exactly. And the advice here is pretty hands-on. They recommend that the Carwells bring in all of your receipts for the last 2 to 3 months.
Ooh, okay. That sounds like homework.
It kind of is.
Yeah.
But the goal here is to get a really clear, honest picture of their current spending habits, to figure out their average expenditures.
So it's like becoming a detective of your own spending habits. Every coffee, every online click, every grocery run, it all gets accounted for.
That's a great way to put it. You're tracking everything. And this detailed tracking, it lets you see which categories are, eating up the biggest chunks of their income. And this naturally leads to a really helpful distinction the advisor introduces: the difference between fixed costs and variable costs.
Okay, yeah, I've heard those terms. Let's break that down simply. What's the key difference there?
Sure. So fixed costs are those expenses that, they tend to stay pretty much the same each month, and they're generally harder to change quickly.
Like the mortgage or car payment.
Exactly. Your mortgage payment, your car loan payment, those are classic fixed costs. Variable costs, on the other hand, they offer more flexibility.
Ah, okay.
These are things like your entertainment budget, how much you spend on clothes, meals out at restaurants,
Yeah.
areas where you have more direct control to potentially trim back if you need to.
Right.
And understanding this split, it isn't just about labeling things, it's about leverage. It tells you where you can make changes more easily.
So you focus your first efforts on those variable costs, maybe?
Often, yes, because you can see results faster. Cutting back on eating out or streaming services gives you quicker wins. It can build momentum before you tackle, say, refinancing a mortgage, which is a bigger lift.
That's a really practical way to look at it. Yeah, you can't just ring up the bank and ask for a discount on your mortgage because you want a new TV.
Not usually, no.
But you can decide, okay, movie night at home this weekend instead of going out.
Exactly.
Speaking of taking action, the advisor gives the Carwells some pretty direct advice, didn't they, to tackle that out-of-control spending?
They did, yes. It was quite blunt, actually.
Mm-hmm.
The advisor suggests they throw away at least half of your credit cards.
Wow. Just throw them away.
Yep. Cut them up, get rid of them. This kind of drastic measure, it taps into behavioral economics, really. You're removing the immediate temptation.
Right. Out of sight, out of mind, kind of.
Sort of. It just makes impulsive spending harder. It's often more effective than just relying on willpower alone, Creating a physical barrier can sometimes be the best way to break a habit.
Wow, that's a bold move. Okay, so we've covered the big first steps. Figure out your income, track your spending, understand fixed versus variable, and maybe, just maybe, a radical decluttering of the wallet.
The foundations.
Now, the source material also zooms in on some of the specific words, the vocabulary used in these kinds of financial chats. Let's start with household income again, since that was step one.
Yeah, sure. So as we said, household income is simply the total amount of money earned by everyone living in a single home who contributes financially.
Okay.
So the example was if one person brings in, say, $5,000 a month and another brings in $3,000, their household income is $8,000 per month. It's the big picture for the whole unit.
Got it. Simple enough. Next up, allowance. Now, when I hear allowance, honestly, I immediately think of, kids getting $5 a week pocket money.
Yeah, that's the classic example.
But it seems the definition here might be a bit broader.
That's a good point. It often does refer to a fixed amount of money given regularly, especially to children. But you're right, its use isn't limited to that.
So, what else?
Well, for instance, a business traveler might get a daily food allowance. Or in some families, maybe one partner gives the other a set amount for personal spending each month.
Ah, I see.
The key thing is it's a designated amount of money, allocated for a specific purpose, usually on some kind of recurring basis.
And the source even had that little memory, right? About a childhood allowance getting somewhere between, $5 and $11 a week, which was enough for a movie and pizza back then.
Right. It seems small now, but it highlights how even that small, regular sum forces you to think about how to use it. It's like a mini budgeting exercise in itself.
Yeah, you learn to make choices. Pizza or the movie, maybe, not both.
Exactly. It illustrates the potential for allowances, even tiny ones, to teach valuable lessons about budgeting and about allocating funds.
Okay, so allocate. That seems important.
Very. To allocate money is basically the active verb part of budgeting. It's deciding where your money will go, which categories get what slice of the pie.
Like allocating 30% to housing, 15% to transport, 5% to allowances, that kind of thing.
Precisely. You're aligning your spending with your goals by assigning funds. It's the opposite of just, letting money flow out sporadically without much thought.
Makes sense. And let's switch gears a bit. Economic downturn. We've certainly heard that phrase a lot lately. What's the core meaning we should grab onto?
Yeah, it's been topical. An economic downturn is essentially a period when the overall economy gets worse or slows down significantly. Things aren't growing.
Okay.
The source contrasts it with an economic boom, which is the opposite: economy thriving, jobs are plentiful, people generally feel like they have more money to spend.
Right, and the Carwells mentioned this, didn't they? That a downturn had hurt the husband's business.
Exactly, and that context is really important. It shows why they suddenly felt this urgent need to get their finances sorted, even though they had a history of higher income. A downturn can expose weaknesses in anyone's financial setup.
Yeah, that really brings it home. Budgeting isn't just for bad times, but downturns can definitely make it feel more urgent. Okay, next term, expenditures. Sounds a bit formal, but it's just spending, right?
Pretty much. Expenditures are simply the things on which we spend money. It's often used in the plural, your expenditures.
So, examples.
Oh, yeah, your car payment, rent or mortgage, healthcare costs, groceries, utilities,
Yeah.
basically all the money flowing out. It's the opposite of your income.
Got it. Expenditures out, income in. Okay. And the next word paints quite a picture. Skyrocket. The Carwell spending had apparently done that.
Yeah, skyrocket means to increase very rapidly and significantly, like a rocket shooting straight up.
Any examples given?
The source used gas prices, remember, going from maybe 98 cents a gallon way back when to suddenly hitting $4 a gallon or more over time.
Ouch. Yeah, I remember that feeling.
It just describes that sudden, often dramatic jump upwards. Could be prices, could be sales figures, or like for the Carwells, their overall spending just took off.
Okay. And their spending wasn't just high. The term used was out of control. What does that add? What does that imply?
Out of control suggests spending that's not just high, but also excessive and without any real order or plan. There's a lack of oversight.
Like the wheels have come off?
Kind of, yeah. A disconnect between what's coming in and what's going out. It really captures the Carwells' initial problem perfectly. They felt overwhelmed by it.
Right. And finally, the advisor uses that classic reassuring phrase, telling them, you've come to the right place. What's the feeling behind that?
Oh yeah, that's a common one. You've come to the right place is basically a way to reassure someone, saying, hey, I can help you with this. I have the skills or the answers you need.
So a bit of confidence boosting?
Yeah, there's definitely a tone of confidence. It's saying,
Ah.
relax, you're in good hands. We can solve this problem.
Okay, so let's try and stitch this all together. If you, listening, are feeling like your spending has skyrocketed maybe, or feels totally out of control, like the Carwells, the starting point is figuring out your total household income, then doing that detective work, tracking your expenditures to see where the money is actually being allocated right now.
Yeah, getting that baseline.
And then understanding that difference between the harder to change fixed costs and the more flexible variable costs.
Yeah.
Maybe, just maybe, a credit card clear out is needed.
It's interesting, isn't it, how these seemingly basic steps, this core vocabulary, they really provide the essential foundation for taking back control of your financial life.
It really does.
Because without that fundamental understanding, and without making a conscious effort to actually budget, to intentionally allocate your resources, even a really good income can just disappear. It can be easily mismanaged.
Absolutely. So here's something to think about, maybe. Considering the Carwell situation, good income, but spending running wild, what's one area in your own financial life where maybe a little more intentionality, a little more thoughtful allocation could make a real difference? Doesn't have to be huge.
That's a great question. And it's also maybe worth reflecting, how things like maybe getting childhood allowances, that structured approach, or even going through an economic downturn, how those experiences might have subtly shaped how you think about and handle money today.
Definitely some food for thought there. If this deep dive has sparked something for you, maybe an interest in getting a better handle on your finances, we really encourage you to keep exploring these ideas. Take those first steps.
Yeah, start small, track things, see where you stand. It's all about moving towards a more secure and intentional financial future.